That's the wrong opening.
What was that the opening to?
You want to hear
This
it?
is a fantasy role-playing game set in the mythical world of Asphaltia, a kingdom set.
Lols.
Oh, we haven't done that in so long.
Yeah, let's just keep going. Hello and welcome to Slow Pit Stop, the international Formula One podcast by fans for fans all around the world. My name's Arafat, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Mohammed. Say hi, Mohammed.
Hi, Mohammed.
Mohammed, I have a question for you.
What's that?
Well, first, I can't remember even how to say it. What's the Italian word for 12? Italian for 12.
Ricciardo.
Dodici.
Okay.
Dodici. Right, so Ferrari have made a new car called the Dodici Cilindri, which stands for 12 cylinder. And word on the streets is, this is an ugly, ugly car. I don't get it, because to me it's the best looking Ferrari there's been in a long time. I've just sent you the link to have a look at it.
Yes, let's
Tell
see.
me what you think of this.
I'm so excited to open this link.
Describe it. Describe it like a piece of art. Judge it.
Oh, wait, this is it? Oh, wow. Okay, so this car, wow, this is beautiful. It looks like RoboCop meets Tesla meets Ferrari. I can understand why people don't like it. It's got those like hard lines that speak like futuristic, and the lights are like thin and they go around the car. Like, I can understand why people don't like that, but this is the future of Ferrari. I can imagine like going into a coma, waking up 30 years from now, and this is like what the Ferrari is. It's like a car that looks like this.
So this whole car is based on Ferraris from the 1960s.
That's what they look like?
Well, I'll show you. It's got styling
really
from
nice.
the old Ferraris. But the if you just search Ferrari 1960, you'll see a bunch of different things. But the idea is, because this car's got a V12, that's what it's... Oh yeah, search Ferrari 1970. What's this?
It's crazy it's not electric, because it really looks electric.
No, because that's the thing. So it's a whole throwback to like the good old days of V12 engines, blah, blah, blah. And that's why they've deliberately not designed it to be super aerodynamic and all of that. They're like, this isn't the fastest Ferrari out there.
Wow.
But this is about the experience of driving. Yeah. So search 1972 Ferrari 365
but
GTB.
You know what? I've just looked up this car in the silver. It looks like remarkably worse in the silver color. I think the red really makes it pop. Yeah. Because in the silver, it looks awful. When I look up 1972 Ferrari...
1972 Ferrari 365 GTB.
365 GTB.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like the same car. Yeah. It's like the retro version.
So it's that sort of throwback to a classic car. It's supposed to make you feel the way the classic car did, but it isn't the fastest thing on a racetrack right now. Which is fine. I think it's amazing. It costs more than my house. But, when like testing me enough, and you're like, hey, Arafat, guess what? I was secretly a millionaire, and I've been testing you all these years to make sure you were cool, and now here's money that we can spend on cars. I'm waiting for you to reveal all of that.
I had a friend in medical school who was actually a secret millionaire, and when I found out, I was like, I can't just come out and ask him for money. That all seemed really rude. So I like played the long game, but the most I ever got out of it was like he'd occasionally buy me things at the mall when we went to the mall. Like I never got the Ferrari, but
never got the Ferrari. But yeah, so this Ferrari is like 300, 400,000, but I think it's really, really cool.
I like
the problem with that is, famously, Ferrari can only make one good car at a time. And it's either their road car or their Formula One car. They've never been able to make a good Formula One car and a good road car at the same time.
So is this the sacrifice to the gods to get a good... Is this what you're building up to?
Well, no. My concern is, if this is a good Ferrari, what does that mean for Lewis next year?
No. But see, this is a bad Ferrari, as everybody keeps saying. And therefore, this is the sacrifice to the public Ferrari road cars in order to get us that fast F1 car. And
Fine.
I just want to remind you that the team has the potential to make good cars. In the beginning of 2022 showed us that Leclerc was leading the championship by 70 points after 3 races. That's a
Yeah.
huge amount.
I don't know
And
how he fumbled that.
I know. It's actually incredible. It needs to be studied by Lewis Hamilton so he knows not to repeat mistakes.
Fine. So this is the first time we're talking to you all after the Singapore Grand Prix. I've been a little unwell.
Mhm.
It hurts my voice to talk, and every now and again I will just go into a coughing fit. So I'll try and put my mic on mute. I've got my cucumber water to keep me going. But Mohammed, we might have to lean on you a bit more this time. But also, what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Singapore Grand Prix. We're going to talk about Lewis and his strategy and how his relationship with the Mercedes team.
Awful.
We're going to talk about just drivers and their relationships with team. I think the big story is going to be Daniel Ricciardo and this the whole Red Bull machine. So shall we get into it?
Let's get into it.
What do you think of the race?
Before we get into it, I have a game for you.
Oh, fun.
Okay. I have a game. So since Daniel Ricciardo has very unceremoniously left us, I thought we should do a little bit of a postmortem on his career by going through all of the people he has raced against. So he's been at 5 teams. Can you name the teams? This isn't part of the game. 5 teams.
So he started at HRT.
Good.
Then he went to Toro Rosso.
Good.
Then he went to Red Bull.
Good.
Then he went to Renault.
Good.
Then he went to McLaren.
Yeah.
Then he went back to Toro Rosso.
Yeah. So 5 teams in total, one of them with 2 names.
Yeah.
And he's had many, many teammates over those years. He's had, let me count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes. You have to name his 12 teammates in 1 minute. I'm going to start the stopwatch here, and you have a minute to do it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, begin.
So at HRT, his teammate was Liuzzi, apart from one race where his teammate was Karthikeyan, that was the Indian Grand Prix. And then he went to Toro Rosso. I'm not sure who he was next to at Toro Rosso. Was it Kvyat at that stage, or was that too early? Or was John-Eric Verne still there? Did Verne and Buemi get dumped at the same time? I can't remember. All right, so I've got
4.
Buemi was his teammate? No, 4.
5.
I'm on to 4.
And Buemi's 5, actually.
And Buemi's 5. And then he went up to Red Bull, and he was Vettel's teammate. And then Kvyat came up to be his teammate, and then Verstappen became his teammate. And then he went to Renault, and he was teammates with Hulkenberg and Palmer? No. Sainz?
No.
No. Okay. McLaren was Lando Norris, and then he's been teammates with Yuki.
Nice. So that's 10. You got 10 out of 12 in the 1 minute.
12.
You want to know who you're missing?
Who else was Magnussen?
No.
No. Who was at Renault at that time?
So you missed 2. Oh, Esteban Ocon was at Renault.
Yeah. So at Renault, he was with Ocon and then Hulkenberg.
And then the other one that you missed, which I had to look this up, but it's he was also teammated with Jamie Alguersuari at Toro Rosso.
Fine. So that whole Toro Rosso, because all those people got dumped at the same time.
Come in and out, yeah.
Yeah, and they all
Buemi,
came in, out, in, out.
Cartanian.
Wow. It was all very strange. But it's bizarre that every time Daniel Ricciardo's come into F1, he's come into the middle of season taking someone else's seat. And the way he's left Formula One is in the middle of a season, someone taking his seat.
Although, you know what I saw in my research when I was looking this up? For, what's that guy's name? I want to say it right. Karthikeyan. Yeah. Because he's Indian, and he was replacing John-Eric Verne, but for the Indian Grand Prix, they let him come back into the seat so he can race in his home race.
Yeah.
Which is super nice. That would never happen in nowadays. They dumped Nick DeVries right before Zandvoort. They were gonna dump Perez before he got to Mexico.
Yeah.
So that would never happen.
This is what could happen when you had 26 teams and you were at the back of the field and you had no chance of, like, HRT struggled to qualify. You know the rule? That you have to be within 107% of the leader?
Yeah.
They brought that rule in because of HRT. So they were so slow, they just didn't qualify for some races.
That's so
So they
funny.
were never going to compete in the race. They used to finish 5-6 laps behind the leader.
Yeah.
It was
Oh
literally
my
like having a
God.
Formula 3 car on the track at the same time. So it was good for Daniel as a place to start, where you can start at the back and no one notices you.
Yeah.
But
And just get
yeah,
some
it wasn't.
experience like behind like with the procedures and with the quality and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you can see from the driver the benefit, but as a team, it was just
An awful
problematic.
team. So Ricciardo came back into Formula One, last year, replacing, was it last year or the year before? Last year, I think, replacing Nick DeVries halfway through the season. DeVries, who was unceremoniously dumped for not performing, and then he came in, and you know how they say it, like, if somebody cheated, they'll always be a cheater or something like that. So I feel like Ricciardo comes, he takes someone's seat, and it's a little poignant then somebody's going to come halfway through the season and take his seat.
Yeah,
His
because that's
comeback,
what he did to Karthikeyan. He took Karthikeyan's seat and De Vries' seat.
yeah. And in a way, he took Kvyat's seat too. No, Verstappen
Yeah,
took down Kvyat's seat.
yeah,
Anyway, so he came back. His comeback hasn't really been what we all thought it would be. He got
yeah.
corrupted by McLaren, and he just never got a chance to unlearn driving habits that he learned at McLaren. Never got a chance really to shine, although he's also been fed very bad strategy day in and day out by VCarb, which has been
Yeah.
awful. But I think what's been worse than all of that is the fact that none of us got to say a proper goodbye to Daniel
Yeah.
Ricciardo. So, I don't know. Arfat, tell me about that.
So I think it's the whole thing has been a massive PR mishandle by Red Bull. On the one hand, I can understand the logic of them wanting to bring Lawson in early because they can assess Lawson over the next part of this season and decide if they want to put him into the Red Bull next year. I get the logic of that. But, lots of drivers get a goodbye. Like I remember Massa getting the everyone coming out the pit boxes to clap for him and things like that. Zhou, I think people kind of knew it was going to be his last year, so he got that thing at the Chinese Grand Prix where he got to park up behind the cars that finished on the podium.
Yeah.
If it was going to be Daniel's last Australian race and all these kind of things, I don't know. You wish even if they decided last minute, you wish they'd sort of told. There was this halfway house where kind of everybody knew but didn't know.
I know.
We were
Everyone
like,
was
it
allowed to
looks like
talk
it's his
about it,
last
but
race,
nobody
but
knew.
are we sure? Are we sure?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they just came out with it,
Mm-hmm.
then he would have been able to have a goodbye or something. They would have done better interviews and things like that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I feel for him on that stage, and I think the way they mishandle the PR Red Bull side, they've created a target on Lawson as well. From some parts of the internet, everyone's mad at him, and it's not like his fault that Daniel's lost his seat. So there's an interesting article on the race talking about how, Daniel was, the phrase that always gets associated with him is last of the late breakers. He liked to V the corner, as in turn very, very sharply. And the article was talking about how, the last generation of cars, 2014, he was possibly at points the best driver in Formula One. But the current cars, like this is what Lewis is struggling as well. Like because of the ground effect aero and things, that idea of Ving the corner as opposed to gradually putting the speed back in, he's not comfortable doing that. And so Lewis is trying to work around it, and is more adaptable. Daniel just struggled to adapt, and the conclusion they had was even if Daniel hadn't gone to McLaren, because that car at McLaren, its characteristics had these problems in it anyway, Daniel would have struggled with his driving style and the way the 2022 cars are. He would have struggled anyway, and we would have ended up at this point regardless. The McLaren years just sort of brought the struggles forward. And it makes you think about things like there was points where Daniel was so fast and he beat Vettel and all these kind of things. And I think about that a lot. The generation of cars just before that suited Vettel so well, and the generation after didn't. And that generation suited Ricciardo so well, and this generation doesn't. And you think about drivers out there, Sainz or even people that got knocked out, Logan Sargent, whatever. did they come into Formula One at the wrong moment in time?
Mm-hmm.
Had a slightly different set of rules, would that have been, allowed them to shine and become the superheroes? And that's why people like Hamilton and Alonso, who have won with different teams across different generations of car.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so much more impressive. And I keep thinking, if I was like, should Daniel be proud of his career? I think we have a distorted view
Mm-hmm.
where unless you're Hamilton or Verstappen and are like breaking every record, everything else is seen as a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you look back historically, world champions had 10 to 20 race wins in total, and 8 race wins
Is a
is
huge
not,
amount.
when this was people out there who would finish their career with 3, 4, 5, 6 wins, 8 is, if you take away Hamilton and Verstappen, it's actually kind of in the middle. Do you know what I mean? Like Alonso's at like 32 wins or something like that. I think Hakkinen is probably 20 something. But yeah, I think it's a good career that looks worse because of the people he's around. I keep using tennis analogies. So like Andy Murray had a good career, right? Andy Murray retired this year. He won Wimbledon once, but he never had the success of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. And even after he had the hip replacement, he kept playing. And I thought that part of Andy Murray's career was really interesting. He never won anything, or he won like very minor trophies and things. But he kept pushing and trying and trying and trying. And I think there's a bit of Daniel Ricciardo where you go, the thing I admire about him is that other people after McLaren would have just gone away. And he had so much to lose in terms of reputation and things by going to Toro Rosso. Like he could have said, look, I was a Red Bull driver, that's a huge step backwards, etc., etc., etc. And he gave it a go, and it didn't work out, but he gave it a go. Just like Andy Murray after his hip operation gave it a go. And so I think you have to respect that. But there's something, I don't know, I keep going backwards and forwards on it. I think with my head, I feel he has had a good career. I just think the way Red Bull allowed it to finish is such a shame.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had a storied career, and I remember when Raikkonen retired, we were talking about it, and I remember saying that he's accomplished everything you can hope to accomplish in Formula One. He won a championship, he won it with Ferrari, which is insane. He's the last Ferrari championship winner. And he had pole positions, and he's been on multiple teams, and he's had multiple race wins and fastest laps, and what more can you ask for than that? And I think Ricciardo is pretty much up there too. I mean, you come into Formula One with a vision. The vision's going to be to win the championship. But if, like, everybody coming in, they want to, but they all know that realistically it's not going to happen unless all the factors go their way. So what is your hope? Initially, it's going to be podiums, then it's going to be race wins, it's going to be fastest laps, it's going to be poles, and he has all of those. And I think he really is going to go down as one of the better Formula One drivers of recent history. I think that once he moved to McLaren, I think it became clear that that set of factors to help him win the championship is never going to exactly come together. Are you okay? You seem to be choking. Going into
no, just coughing. I'm fine.
And I think he realized those factors were never going to come together, and I think getting dumped, at the end by McLaren, and then having to leave and take that break, it was kind of the beginning of the end. And we all wanted him to come back and perform amazingly, but nobody has really done that. I mean, even Robert Kubica came back, had all this potential, came back, did never really the same. So you never really see somebody come back and be better. Even Schumacher came back in 2010.
Alonso, maybe? Is Alonso better?
That's probably the best. Yeah, actually, that's probably the exception to the rule. Alonso.
But Alonso, I suppose the difference is Alonso left out of choice because he's like, I'm not in a race winning car, I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
As opposed to nobody would give Alonso a drive.
Yeah.
So I guess that's different.
No, Alonso's been incredible. It's just unfortunate because he's still not in a race winning car. I guess next year would really be like, we're going to see.
Yeah, but you think about what he did with the Aston Martin last year, all those podiums.
Yeah. Even huge. In Renault, he was on the podium in Qatar with Renault, which is incredible to me. Like, this is a team that was a podium winning team as only a couple years ago, and look how far they've fallen. Alpine. Yeah. But that's Daniel Ricciardo. The other tragedy from this weekend was the strategy for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I think what's more interesting than the strategy for Lewis Hamilton, because Mercedes has done bad strategy choices over and over and over and over again. We saw it all the time. We saw it in 2021. That they get the strategy right only once in a while. And we really hailed them for oh, good job, Russia. Oh, good job, Silverstone. Oh, good job, Spain. Blah blah blah. Hungary, Austria. But in reality, they mess up the strategy way more than they ever get it right. And this was just another example of that. But what I think is more interesting is Lewis Hamilton getting on the mic in Malaysia at the Petronas event and saying, I fought my team to start on mediums. I told them starting on softs was a bad idea. They pushed really hard. I told them I didn't want it. And then when the tires came off and everybody was on mediums, already I'm frustrated that I had to fight my team on the wrong decision. And then getting on the radio in the middle of the race and saying, have we pit right now? We pit too early. This is going to hurt us. And then ultimately getting undercut or overcut by his own teammate and having to finish behind his teammate, not from a skills issue, not from spinning out, not from making mistakes, but purely because his team had bad strategy for him. And then a day after those comments came out, courtesy of some of our friends by Team LH who leaked the footage, he has to go out on Instagram and put out a statement saying everything between me and the team is okay. And nobody look into it too deeply. We're fine and we get frustrated and it's okay, but we love each other.
Yeah.
What do you make of this whole saga? Because there's so much going on.
I think multiple things can be true at the same time. I think he can be annoyed and the team picked the wrong strategy. Every workplace-related thing, the only reference I have is my workplace, right? So I keep trying to bring it back to my workplace.
Yeah.
And you'll know this. You'll make a decision about something, and then someone else will be like, "Nah, we'll not do that." You were literally telling me about this 2 days ago. They're like, "Nah, we won't do that." And then they come in the morning and they're like, "Oh yeah, we should have done that." It's frustrating, and you vent about it, but then it doesn't necessarily descend into toxic workplace. And you can see the logic of the other person's decision, right? They're not doing it to deliberately spite you or hurt you. You can understand why they thought one way and now they've come around to your way of thinking. So I can see why it's frustrating for Lewis and why he would want to vent. I think it was a gamble. And actually, when I saw all the tire covers come off and that he was on something different, I actually got a little bit excited because I was like, oh, they've taken a bit of a gamble here. He's doing something completely different. Maybe this will work out really well. And clearly it had the opposite effect. And I get it, if you're going to gamble, it makes more sense to gamble with Lewis because no, I'm thinking with a management hat on, right? If I'm the team, you don't if Lewis takes a risk and comes off and wins, great, you've got more points. If Lewis has a disaster and he gets annoyed, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you start doing that with George and George gets more and more annoyed, George is still your driver next year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you don't want to demotivate him and destabilize him completely. You'll give him the more vanilla strategy. And if Lewis goes on and wins the way he did in Silverstone, then your team looks amazing. And if he doesn't win and he's mad at you, well, he's leaving anyway. Right? So that's what I think it is.
You talk about treating Daniel Ricciardo. What a way to treat your 7-time champion winner who brought you your era of domination, who kept you on the top, who held off any and all competition for years and years. What a way to treat him. Let's experiment with him. If he screws up whatever, he's leaving anyway. I mean, I believe you. I believe that's the thing they're taking. But a lot of people online...
But I don't think they're experimenting with the idea of, hey, if we did this, it's an even worse strategy. Let's do that. I believe they're genuinely taking gambles because their car is nowhere near enough good to fight McLaren. It's nowhere near good enough to fight Red Bull. And only in the right circumstances can it fight Ferrari, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they're the fourth car and fifth is so far behind them that it's irrelevant, then the only thing they can do is gamble to try and get ahead of it, right?
True, but that's such a bad gamble because A, you're starting him on used softs. B, you're putting him in a place where you can't really overtake multiple cars at the start like that. I mean, we're really hoping for a 2016, 2017 Singapore-ish where they all crash into
Yeah.
each
So the
other.
entire strategy Lewis had was based on a safety car coming out in the first 5 laps.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. And then everything sort of fell apart after that.
I
But
guess
if the
that's
safety
true.
car had come out
It would have
and
been. It would have
Lewis
worked.
had suddenly like sprung ahead of people at the restart and then had a better pit stop and blah 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 and ended up winning or on the podium, we would have only like, oh, genius strategy. Can't believe no one else thought of it.
I don't think we would have gone that far, but I think we would have said Mercedes got lucky. But I will give Mercedes some credit because every single year there's been a safety car in Singapore except this year. And that's just like, where are our crash-prone drivers? We need to bring Marzipan back in.
Yeah.
He needs to be
Maldonado. Remember Maldonado? But yeah, no, I'm glad Lewis is leaving Mercedes. I think the whole thing is stagnated and I think he needs to be somewhere else
Yeah. The fact that it's been how many years since this new era of regulation, and clearly Mercedes hasn't gotten any better. If anything, they're worse this year. They're fourth.
But the way they're gambling, the way they're treating him, like, as a Lewis Hamilton fan, it's obviously annoying. But if I try to like step out of that and look at it from the bigger picture, I get why they're doing that, because why would you destabilize George? You need him for at least 1 year before you fire him to replace him with Verstappen, right?
What do you make of it? Yeah, exactly. 2025, and then it's over.
Yeah.
What do you make of the Instagram thing? Lewis going back out and saying, guys, everything is fine between me and the team. I mean, do you think the team made him say that? Because it seems a lot like the team made him say that.
I'm not sure what they can and can't make him do. I believe the PR people, because they do briefings, right? They're like, this is what the top stories are right now on social media. And they would have come back and said, this is what the top story is right now on social media. You saying this, this, this. How should we deal with this? And then either he has his own PR people or he's involved in these discussions. And they'll be like, okay, at the next race, we'll come out and do this press statement. Or for the next 3 races, Lewis will say really positive things, blah, blah, blah. Or we'll put something out on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. And they would have come up with something. Now, whether that was a good idea or a bad idea, whatever, but I believe the process is like sterile and cold like that.
Yeah. It's always funny how people posting things on Twitter make such an effect, because it brings me back to the beginning of 2022 when F1 Jordan put out that video. It was a video that people had already like seen but forgotten about, and he called it like, or everyone called it like newly earthed evidence of Michael Massey's manipulation, and it was just something. But it took the internet by storm.
David Hill retweeted it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, you remember. And then like this is just like, it was like a blurry like Facebook Live of an event at a Petronas Tower that nobody was watching, and somebody retweeted it. Sumi retweeted it on Twitter, and it just took off, and it led to Lewis having to put out a statement. And it's funny because all of those people who are saying like, oh, it's not a conspiracy, Mercedes really doesn't listen to Lewis's opinion, because that's really what people were talking about, did they take his opinion or not. And that was like quantified for us. Lewis said, they didn't listen to me, and he said that in the past, they didn't listen to me when I said make the car this way.
It's interesting that when he left McLaren, a lot of it was because of that. He was feeling not listened to, and it was very much because he'd been at McLaren since he was like 13. I think they looked at him like as a boy. They didn't look at him as a team leader. And I think Jensen was there as well, who's older, calmer. And part of that was wanting to be listened to. And when he went to Mercedes, he was treated as an adult.
Yeah.
And it's funny that the end of the Mercedes era is gone back round to I'm not being listened to.
I just really want Mercedes to sign Max Verstappen and dump George Russell. And I don't know. It's not George Russell's fault. But for some reason, I really want the bad things to happen to him. I'm going to get canceled again. People are going to find this video and post it.
I'm just thinking, bad things to happen to him in the sense of Formula 1
a career.
results, not like,
yeah, of course. Yeah,
not,
career.
not physical harm.
Yes, okay. I feel I shouldn't have to put a disclaimer out there, but I mean it like career-wise. I want him to have a bad car. I want him to not win races.
I almost wish Bottas had. I don't obviously I don't want Lewis to not win championships, But if Bottas had won a world championship as well somehow,
Hmm.
and like every single person, ignoring Schumacher, that had driven for Mercedes, had won a world championship, and then Russell came into the point where they're not that good anymore, and then Russell gets binned, and Antonelli wins a championship. That would have been really funny.
See so what should have happened in the ultimate timeline? What should have happened is Lewis should have won in 2007. He could have been the only rookie to win a championship, and then he should have won in 2021, of course, because he of course should have won that one. But then
Yeah.
let's say he loses one of them. He can lose 2019, and Bottas can win 2019,
Let's say Lewis moves to Ferrari early. Lewis goes to Ferrari in 22.
and he wins in
Bottas
22.
No, Bottas wins at Mercedes in 22,
Oh,
and then Lewis wins 23, 24, whatever. And
perfect.
Russell fails to win in the Mercedes.
Yes, that would have been the best case scenario, because then Lewis wins everything across 3 eras. Oh yeah, that's what I want to happen. I'm very excited for next year. None of this Mercedes stresses me anymore. I don't care because it's over, guys. It's over. Why do we care about Mercedes?
Exactly.
It's over. I stopped wearing my Mercedes hat. No more. Just Ferrari. No more. Because it's over. The era's over, and we don't have to care anymore.
Oh my god, that's a good idea.
Yeah, what's your idea?
If, like, everyone that listens to this podcast, let's do the maths. 1 second. Gave us like $1,000 or something, we could go buy. We could go buy that Ferrari. And
so
yeah, we should do that.
What does it cost, that Ferrari?
It's like 300,000 or something.
That's it? That's cheap.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't know what cars cost nowadays. I just asked you before this recording started if 560 pounds was considered cheap, and you were like, no, obviously not. The Ferrari website is so interesting. Look how it scrolls.
I know, right? I should buy an old Ferrari. Should we play a different game? I know we were going to talk about Red Bull.
I have another question for you. And my question is, assuming we're starting at 100% fan interaction now because of Lewis, next year when he leaves, what does Mercedes' fanship drop down to, fandom, with just George Russell and Antonelli?
We should check their Twitter and Instagram number of followers and see what happens at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we were going to talk about Red Bull and their whole culture and the way they dump drivers in the middle of the season and all of this. There's an article on the race.com being ranking the harshest Red Bull drops mid-season, and it has the top 9. And it's any organization that can have these are the worst 9 times that you dropped a driver mid-season. I think they need to look at themselves.
That's so funny.
Instead of doing that, let's play a more fun game. I'm on Auto Trader, which is my favorite website to go on.
Yeah.
And let's look at the Ferraris. Should we look to see what the cheapest Ferrari is?
I asked you once if you knew what Auto Trader was, and you said no, we don't have it in the UK.
No, it wasn't Auto Trader. It was something else. It was the one that was sponsoring Alpine.
Auto Sport, maybe? Moto Trader.
Alpine sponsor. Whatever. Alpine sponsor. Auto something.
Okay, whatever. So we're gonna look at Ferraris.
Who are the sponsors? Top 10. Yahoo,
Ferrari.
Boeing.
Any model.
Oh my god!
Search.
The fact does Alpine really get sponsored by Boeing? That sums it all up, doesn't it?
We found why. You guys need to drop them.
God. No, it was some Auto something that sponsored. It wasn't Auto Trader.
Hey, some of these Ferraris are really cheap. This Ferrari California 2016 is only $116,000.
Oh, geez, I'm looking at old ones. So I've got one here from 1983. That's £38,000.
Wow.
It looks like it's on a farm somewhere. Does it even work? It's done a total of 57,000 miles.
How much is it?
It's £38,000.
Oh, I missed you saying, hey, that's really cheap. Why don't you buy it right now?
Because I don't have that much money lying around. I don't have enough money to buy crisps, let alone
38,000 pounds is good. We should buy it, and then we should put slow pit stop livery on there.
My god, this one's from 1979. It's done a total of 42,000 miles. Imagine a car from 1979.
1979. What is it? A Ferrari what?
Ferrari
400?
400.
Oh, you gotta see a picture of it. Oh wow, it's actually super duper old. That's so
Yeah.
old. Imagine you're like, I drive a Ferrari, and then you pull this thing out.
Yeah. Jeez.
The article I
Uh,
found says, here's why the 400 is considered one of Ferrari's worst cars. It makes sense. They were winning championships back then. They didn't have the
yeah.
energy to make good road cars.
Exactly. Yeah. Ferrari can only make one good thing at a time. Yeah, these cars are crazy expensive. Such a shame.
That's the end
Now
of the
I'm onto
game.
like more modern Ferraris, and they're like £50,000. Ferrari
That's still so
360,
cheap.
41,000. Finance available. Lol.
For £50,000, what is the state of the UK economy that's considered too much for a Ferrari?
Huh? That is too much for a Ferrari. Do you know if the UK joined the USA, we would be the poorest state. We'd be poorer than Minnesota and all the others. Genuinely, that's not a joke. That's just how life is now.
It's funny because you guys have like free healthcare and stuff, and we still don't
Yeah.
have any of that.
No, but you have money to do things.
I have money. That's true.
But like here, we have no money, and our services are crumbling too.
But
All I can do for now is just scroll through this website and look at all the Ferraris that I can't buy.
I'll buy you a Ferrari one day.
Nice.
I don't know
I doubt
when.
it.
Maybe when we're
Yeah.
dead.
It'll be a toy Ferrari. Oh my god. Like this, I don't understand. There's a Ferrari Enzo listed on Auto Trader. If you have enough money to sell a Ferrari Enzo, why are you advertising on Auto Trader? Who goes into Auto Trader and goes, I'm going to buy a £4 million car?
Yeah. I don't know.
Look
How
at this
old
one.
can you go for Ferrari, buying a used Ferrari? How old can you get before it's like, all right, now you're too old? Like, come on.
I don't know. There's a 1979 and 1989. But I suppose if you buy one of those, you could be like, oh, I'm a classic car collector.
Yeah. That's
This
the
Ferrari
excuse I'm gonna make, because
Enzo
that's
is
how I can
2004. It's 2004 and it's still £4 million.
Wow. That's wild. This 1989 Ferrari Mondial Cabriolet.
Mondial.
Yeah. $75,000. Pretty cheap. That's
Jeez, here's one. A Ferrari 275 from 1967.
All right, we can't keep playing this
£3.5
game.
million.
What are we doing?
No, this is like really boring podcasting. People are like, what are we listening to now?
What are we doing right now? All right.
We'll edit this all out. Don't worry. If somehow you're hearing this, something has gone wrong.
All right, McLaren.
Yeah.
Are they going to win the championship? And then we'll finish out the episode.
They're going to win the constructors, yes.
Okay, are they going to... He's not going to overtake Verstappen?
No. Drivers...
They can't... Because Piastri's not...
My ideal situation would Piastri wins. So you're like... Do I want Norris to win? I don't know. Like, I think I don't care enough. Between Verstappen and Norris, if those are my two choices, I'm like, actually, whoever wins out of those two, fine.
I am excited for Oscar Piastri to win the 2025 World Championship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's got a good shot.
All right. We'll end the episode there. Sorry, everybody, for going on that rant. Well, I mean, it's possible you'll never hear it. You never know. But we will come back to you sometime later in the future. Bye, everyone. Oh, wait. This is our 100th episode. I just wanted to bring that up.
Is it?
Yeah, we've done 100 episodes of Slow Pit Stop.
Yeah. Thank you for sticking with us.
We should do something with the number 100, but I haven't thought of anything, and this is the end of the episode.
No,
so.
we can do something with 101. You have that in America, right? Like classes? 101?
Yeah.
So we could do Formula 1 101 for the next one.
That's nice. Yeah. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.